Yes.
Okay. Uh, Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone, wherever you are. Welcome to this 54th edition of What's Cooking Data Driven Digital Agriculture webinar series. This series is also accessible to about 4,500 people in the open learning university campus of the bank. And all the recording of this webinar will be made available on the Open Learning Campus website, which is shown on your screen right now. This series hosts thought leaders from public sector, private sector, data companies, startups, and all the people who are working in the digital agriculture ecosystem globally. We have had a very good audience. We have lots of people attend and lots of people look at these webinars after the event is over. Today is a very great, important day because we are hosting Telangana State Government, which has been the leader in lots of tech ecosystem initiatives, which I think really are cutting edge in the country as well as globally. And we have lots of people have governments ask us all the time that can we interact with the thought leaders and also the leaders in the public sector who are heralding this kind of a technical change. Especially, it's difficult to do this in a sector like agriculture, which also requires a very different disruption and change in the mindset. Currently, World Bank is working in about 39 countries globally on really working on this AgTech and digital agriculture ecosystem. So a warm welcome to all the panelists, and especially very good to connect back with Jayesh and Raghu, because I had a good innings in Andhra and Telangana at the start of my World Bank career, and they have been part of those very transformational projects which were done by these governments at the earlier stages. So it's very good, special connection with Andhra and Telangana governments. I have my personal connection there. And I also very thankful to Rama for really making this happen, because I think it required a lot of effort for all the things to come together. So today's format is very simple, that we have the public sector leaders, and Dr. Rao, who is the leader in the agriculture universities and is really well known for his thought leadership in the agriculture universities and the academic space, talking about it, and Rama talking about. We'll break a little bit for a short discussion with the public sector panelists, and then we'll bring in our startup founders to talk a little bit about the examples of what they're doing in the state of Telangana. And so we'll have to do this in two parts. I will request all the participants to put their questions in the chat, and so that we can really harvest your questions in a seemingly kind of a way when we carry out the discussions there. And I would request the panelists also to start looking at the chat questions when they start coming, so that they're aware of what questions are coming to them. So without further ado, Vivek, can we put in, before we start with the thing, also the announcement for the next webinar on next Thursday, so that people know what's coming? The next one is on Africa, revolutionizing the resilience of smallholder farmers through digital agripreneurs. It's a very interesting series where a number of digital agripreneurs in Africa are being trained to deliver last mile services there. So, okay, that's fine. And it will be on February 10th at 9 a.m. I have a great pleasure now in introducing the first panelist, Jayesh Ranjan, who is a known kind of thought leader and a public sector leader and innovator and change agent in his own right. And you have seen his long bio in the announcement there. And this is a very unique thing, because we have the Secretary of Information Technology, Principal Secretary Jayesh, and an Agriculture Secretary together talking in a panel. We don't get that normally. We get that in some time. So I think this shows the integration at the government thinking level of how we are working and how the Telangana government is working there. So over to Jayesh, you have 10 minutes to explain how this is shaping up in Telangana.
So a 30 seconds summary of what I'm going to say in the next 10 minutes to the question of what's cooking. So the 30 seconds answer is that we have put quite a lot in the pot, and hopefully after a few months you will find out that something very unique, very rare is cooking in Telangana. But jokes aside, first of all, I'm very grateful to the World Bank Group for organizing this webinar, which showcases some very interesting initiatives which our government here in Telangana is taking in the digital agriculture space. While many states in the country claim to be doing a lot, but after you listen to all of us, you will really appreciate that this is one government which has gone miles ahead. We have really walked the talk. We have ran the talk, so to say, in rolling out lots of very, very interesting thing. And let me also go back to the beginning and let you know that the whole motivation for picking up agriculture and digital agriculture came from the time when we were creating our new IT policy. So all of you would know, or at least many of you would know, that Telangana is a new state. It got created 7.5 years ago in June 2014. And obviously becoming a new state gave us the freedom to create policies afresh instead of getting bogged down by legacy policies, etc. And one of the policies that we started revisiting was the IT policy. And I remember when we approached our chief minister and the IT minister, they only told us that whatever IT policy you want to bring, we are giving you the complete freedom, but ensure that whatever you do, the technology should really benefit a common man. I mean, start thinking from that perspective. Otherwise, the technology of no use if it doesn't alleviate the pain points of a common person or a common citizen. And then when we started looking at the policy and how do we bring use cases as a matter of implementing the policy, we felt that agriculture will be the best domain to target, because lots of livelihoods are dependent upon agriculture, either directly or indirectly. More than 65% of the state is agrarian, including rural areas, remote areas. Agriculture pervades all geographies. Then there is some kind of a heterogeneity within agriculture also. While there are prosperous and rich farmers, there are also small farmers, marginal farmers, landless workers who are also dependent on agriculture. So this is also an area where lots of inclusivity can be shown. So that motivated us to look at AgriTech. And we felt that Telangana can become a prototype state or a role model state, which will bring a digital revolution in India's agri sector. And thereby it will improve the lives of the farmer. See, all of you would know that in India, for instance, the issue of doubling farmers' income is being talked about since time immemorial. In fact, the earlier UPA government gave a big prominence to this particular national goal. The current government in Delhi is also giving priority to doubling farmers' income, but no one has been able to really come close to it. But we are very confident in Telangana that if we are able to use technology with conventional outreach practices, extension practices, research support, etc., we will become a state where we can actually show that we have doubled farmers' income. And there are other very significant investments also happening in this area. For instance, almost 30%, more than a third of states' budgets in the last 7 years have been spent on agriculture infrastructure, particularly irrigation, and so on and so forth. We are the first state to start a direct benefit transfer scheme, and I'm glad that my colleagues, Mr. Raghunandan Rao and Professor Praveen Rao, both of them are present here, and I'm sure they will elaborate upon some of these points. And also my colleague Rama Devi, who will speak a little bit more about technology. So improving farmers' income, increasing productivity, also doing it in a financially inclusive manner, and also improving the sustainability of the natural resources. These are some of the important goals, which they are of any other agriculture program also. Any program in this country or any other country typically will have similar goals, that we will improve production, we'll improve productivity, we'll do it in an inclusive manner, we will also ensure that farmers' lives improve, which means that incomes will improve and so on and so forth. So these are our goals also. But how do we achieve these goals? How do we achieve these objectives? So basically, as I said, we are using multiple kinds of technologies, particularly a bunch of technologies which all of us today collectively know as emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, IoT, robotics, blockchain, data analytics. These are some of the technologies that we are using to relook at some of the conventional agriculture practices across the agriculture value chain. And I can share this with you that when we started this initiative, we compiled a compendium of technologies using some of these new generation technologies or new age technologies that I spoke about. And we were able to put together almost 80 plus solutions, which have either been tried out or piloted, or potentially they look very sound, etc., across different steps in the agriculture value chain. So based on the homework and the due diligence that we did, we developed a 5-pillar approach for introducing AgriTech, which involves thought leadership, innovation facilitation, working with startups and with their help do new product development, also doing adoption with the help of the department and the agriculture university, and also institutionalizing all these initiatives so that tomorrow, whether the same officers remain, the same government remains, the practices become institutionalized. And I'll, in the next 6-7 minutes, I'll very briefly give a snapshot of each of these 5 pillars in a very structured way. So when I speak about thought leadership, now one of the best exemplars of how we do this thought leadership is a program that we are running in partnership with the World Economic Forum. It is incidentally our flagship program, which is called Sagu Bagu. So Sagu Bagu obviously is a Telugu term, and Sagu means cultivation, Bagu is welfare or well-being. So how do you introduce, how do you improve welfare or well-being in the domain of Sagu or in the domain of agriculture? So this is one project which shows or showcases how we follow a consultative approach, how do we derive insights to be used by the state and potentially can be replicated by other states in this country, etc. So Sagu Bagu project, for example, has 60 plus partners across industry, academia, startups, government, etc. And 30 use cases have been identified out of the 80 which is there on our long list, and these now serve as national references. So we have in some ways introduced a new concept of what is called as public-private cooperation, where government is extending deployment support to all the agri-tech innovators. And my colleague, Mr. Raghunandan Rao, will speak more about how the agriculture department is supporting deployment. We have also created a new platform, which is called Agri Data Exchange, ADX, which is being developed to facilitate access to government data. And this in turn will unlock AI innovation at scale, and therefore it will benefit the farmers. And I would request my colleague Rama Devi maybe to devote more of her time to explain about this Agri Data Exchange. Another thought leadership initiative is what we are doing with UNDP. In partnership with UNDP, UNDP has a program, some of you may be familiar with it, which is called Next Gen Gov. And they also look at data-driven policy initiatives, and they have chosen the Telangana model to support. So we are looking at how digital public goods can be delivered, which helps in anticipatory governance. And I would request Rama Devi to maybe touch a little bit upon this aspect also. The second pillar, as I said, the first pillar that I spoke about so far was on thought leadership. The second pillar is on innovation facilitation. So in Sagu Bagu itself, we have lots of startups who are giving innovative solutions. And just to give an example, and hopefully one of my colleagues, either Professor Rao from the university or Rama Devi, one of them will elaborate a little bit more. This is about a startup called SatSure, who have developed 2 solutions which are being rolled out across 2 crop seasons. And there are so many other innovation pilots also, which the agriculture university is rolling out. In fact, in their first cohort, 11 startups across technology and value chain are doing proof of concepts. We have also we have a state state artificial intelligence mission, which is called TAIM, wherein also we focused on agriculture. We ran an AgriTech grand challenge, and in an open competition, AI solutions for critical agri use cases were sought. The third pillar of our AgriTech landscape relates to startups and product development. And again, we are trying to do it in a bottoms-up way. We try to find out what are the requirements of the farmer and then get solutions created. Typically, the approach is the other way around, that I have a solution and I try to ram it down your throat, whether it is really relevant or not. But we are doing a bottoms-up approach to first understand what the requirements are and then fit your solution accordingly as per the learnings from the ground and from the experts. So again, Professor Praveen Rao will speak a little bit more on it, but the Agriculture University itself has created a dedicated AgriTech incubator, which is called Ag Hub. And this is a institution within Agriculture University. So years of agriculture research, agriculture learning are transferred to startups in under this Ag Hub program. Of course, T Hub is already there. Many of you may know this, that this is the country's biggest tech incubator. And today it does much more than basic incubation. It has become a innovation ecosystem by itself. They are also supporting various startups in AgriTech. Similarly, under our artificial intelligence mission, we have started a program called RevUp. It is an acceleration program under which AI startups, particularly who already have a MVP, a minimum viable product, they are being accelerated, particularly those who are in agriculture domain. The fourth pillar is, of course, regarding adoption and pilots. And I already told that in the last year's cropping seasons itself, we started this concept of adoption, pilot implementation, etc. And we have now started contributing to the national e-governance plan also. Some of you will know that what we are doing in Telangana is, of course, very unique and far-reaching, but the national government is also trying to kind of catch up. And they have come up with a national e-governance plan for agriculture. And many startups who have already been supported by us have got already selected to pilot solutions across the country in different verticals by under this any GPA. For example, there is a startup which has a smart irrigation management system. There's another startup which has a nutrition management system, a startup which has a produce grading and quality assaying solution. And most importantly, there is a company which has a seed traceability using blockchain technology. And hopefully, my colleague Raghunandan Rao, who is much more closely working with the national e-governance plan for agriculture, he should be able to tell you a little bit more. But outside the NEGPA, we have also done a very good, a very large scale adoption on AI-based pest management. Cotton is an important crop in Telangana, gets affected by pests literally every season. And some of you may be familiar with this company called the Vadhwani Foundation. It's not a company in that sense. It's a non-profit organization. They have started a vertical in India called Vadhwani AI. This was one of the first solutions which they tried out, where they were able to catch pest infestations quite early and take corrective action immediately. And I would request my colleague Raghunandan maybe to tell a little bit more with numbers and impact, etc., etc. Similarly, there is again a US-based company which has recently started their India headquarters in Hyderabad called Wingshore. And we are able to get them design a personalized insurance and advisory solution. As you know, insurance is also a very big issue in the agriculture, though it is a neglected field, but we feel that particularly in a rain dependent kind of an agriculture scenario, insurance is very important. And this company called Wingshore, which was a part of SRI, Stanford Research Institute earlier, they will provide deep tech AI-based personalized crop insurance products and advisory services, particularly to the small and underserved models. So these are some of the important works in progress in terms of adoption, etc. And as I said, our whole interest is to ensure that we institutionalize all these initiatives. So I hope I'm not jumping the gun in letting all of you know that Telangana would soon be the first state to have a dedicated digital agriculture division, which is going to focus on new agriculture technologies within the agriculture department. Ideally, my colleague Raghunandan should have made this announcement, but because Parmesh, you gave me the first opportunity, sometimes this kind of unfair things happen that the first speaker hogs the limelight and says all kinds of things, which ideally others would have said. But nevertheless, we have a lot to say. So I don't want to kind of exceed my 10 minutes time slot. I'll stop with this, but I'm sure all of you are getting a very good sense of how a very comprehensive pool of initiatives can be brought in together by, first of all, bringing all the stakeholders together, identifying the needs from grounds up or bottoms up, and then looking at different aspects of planning for the solution, implementing the solutions, piloting, scaling, and of course, institutionalizing the whole thing. So while I mentioned earlier that we are partnering with World Economic Forum, we are partnering with UNDP, we are partnering with the national government. One name which is missing in this is the World Bank. So hopefully today's interactions will lead to something much more kind of profitable and a win-win kind of thing of getting World Bank also participate in some of these initiatives. So look forward to staying connected with all of you beyond this webinar also. And thanks once again, Parmesh and Vijay, for putting this together and giving us all this opportunity. Look forward to hearing to all the other panelists also, and also the startups in the second half. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Jayesh. As you set the context so well and really shows the comprehensive nature, the way Telangana government thinks about it, builds the policy environment, just doesn't jump into it, has use cases there, and then tries to scale them up and creates the ecosystem. So I visited T-Hub some time back, definitely some time back, and I've been following what's happening in Telangana. We are very excited to see how you are developing this space. And I think the fact that you talked about being user-centric, you talked about being more integrated, you talked about inclusive nature of this, you talked about use cases, and you talked about developing the enabling ecosystem. I think these are very important points, and we look forward to really collaborating with you. First, to make Telangana as an open learning campus case for learning across governments. And I think we'll come back to you on that so that this becomes a use case globally, which could be shared there. So, and I look forward to collaborating with you after this webinar there, because we don't want to stop at this webinar as well. So I will now go back to Raghu. Raghu is the Secretary Agriculture and has been involved in many things in innovative and entrepreneurial and change processes in Andhra and Telangana, as well Andhra and Telangana now. So Raghu, you have also 10 minutes to talk about how Ministry of Agriculture in Telangana and Department of Agriculture is really embracing this whole AgTech, applications, and what is your strategy going forward? And please give some examples as Jay suggested of how you are doing it. Over to you, Raghu.
Yeah, thank you, Jayesh. Thank you, Vijay, for this opportunity. Let me at the beginning confess that almost every day of my work, it is informed by the learnings that we have from the Velugu and the DPIP project. So there is no day in my work where some of the learnings and some of the reminiscences that we have shared in that project, which you call transformational, doesn't happen. And we cherish those memories, and hopefully we will continue to make this effort to bring some of those learnings into the agricultural space. Many of you must be aware about Telangana and its the importance Telangana gives to agriculture. Now, when Telangana State was formed, the agricultural sector was really in distress. It was a sector which was having examples of suicide. There was shortage of inputs. There was no water for irrigation. So over the last 6 to 7 years, the government of Telangana has refocused on ensuring that agricultural sector develops a kind of stability, and the farmers who are in this sector know that there is a government which is willing to support them. So some of these efforts I would like to just go through so that the context into which we are now talking about becomes clear. Like Mr. Jayesh Ranjan was mentioning, a lot of investment over the last 7 years has gone to irrigation. So the water availability, irrigated water availability across the state has improved tremendously. So, and this is the fact that the second crop, which is based basically on groundwater availability, that has gone up by more than 3 times in the last 4 or 5 years. So we used to be around 20 lakh acres of second crop. Now we are almost at 80 lakh acres of second crop every season. Similarly, Telangana is one of the few states which also has 24-hour power supply to the farmers. To improve the extension mechanism in the state, every 5,000 acres has been carved out into a cluster of consisting of 2-3 villages, and we have a trained agricultural extension officer who is an agricultural graduate available at that level for every 5,000 acres, which means roughly around 1,200 to 1,400 farmers have one agricultural extension officer whom they could reach out to. And there are over 2,600 Raitu Vedikas constructed in this cluster. So each cluster has a Raitu Vedika, which is basically a meeting point for the farmers along with the extension staff. Telangana is also one of the few states which has a digitized database of landowners, of agricultural landowners. So this, as you must be aware, is Aadhaar-enabled database called Dharani, which ensures that every landowner's details are available, and it becomes easy for us to track and trace the crops or the farmer and all the other practices which we are trying to promote. And like Mr. Jayesh Ranjan was mentioning, Telangana is also one of the few states which gives an investment support to farmers at the rate of 5,000 rupees per crop per acre. So over the last 4 years, Telangana government has transferred to DBT mode more than 50,000 crores of rupees into the farmers' account. It is being implemented very close to Hyderabad, and this is the first season. We are waiting for the results to come in, and we hope that this will be successful. The other important project that we are doing is the nutrient management using IoT. Basically, where we have a portable device installed in the farmer's farm, and it gives analysis of about 11 soil parameters in about 30 minutes. So this will enable the farmer, this will enable an extension officer or a scientist to advise the farmer on the specific nutrient requirement of each farm. So this is a pilot project which is being implemented again in this current season, and we are very hopeful that this also will yield good results. We are also having another thing which is basically a quality assaying unit, where this is going to be placed in some market yards, where farmers could come and put a sample of their product, and this will scan the bottom and top of that grain and give quality parameters, and therefore it is easy for the farmer to assess what is the quality of the crop that he has brought to the market, and it will be easy for him to bargain for a price instead of depending on the subjective interpretation of the commission agents. So these are the kind of things that we are looking at in the NEGPA project. The other important project which Mr. Jayesh Ranjan mentioned was the Sago Bago project, where we are having a collaboration with the World Economic Forum. Now, this is the way this project has been structured, I think, is the critical thing that needs to be mentioned. For over a year, a team consisting of the Vice Chancellor, Department of Agriculture, representatives from the World Economic Forum, and a former retired Secretary of the Government of India has been involved in designing this project. This team has met almost every week for a structured meeting to identify what are the use cases, identify the mechanism to deploy, to identify the partners, and finally we have gone for an RFP and identified 3 partners. We are in the process of issuing an LOI to them and finalizing the activity plan of each of those partners. The crops that have been identified are cotton, groundnut, and chili. And in these 3, we are going to deploy more than 15 to 20 use cases. These use cases deal with smart irrigation, smart pest management, seed traceability, drone usage. So these are the kind of use cases, and including insurance. So these are the kind of use cases that are going to be involved in this Sago Bago project. We have a project management unit which works with me here in the headquarters to deploy this project, to overcome the challenges in this project, and also an empowered committee consisting of the senior members of the government and university to take care of this project. Now, finally, there was also a mention about the digital transformation that we are going to build up to the digital agricultural division. Now, Government of Telangana is in the process of having a digital agriculture division within the government department to ensure digital transformation of all the activities that happen in the agricultural space. Agriculture department also has a lot of statutory responsibilities. We are the licensing authority for seed, fertilizer, insecticides. So these kind of activities need to be digitized in such a manner that both the user and the manufacturer know the efficacy of the activities that are going on, the statutory compliances which they need to go through, and also have an archive of the experiences which each farmer has about the different molecules or the different fertilizers that he's using. So the entire gamut of operations dealing with the farmer-wise farm, this is the effort that is going to happen in this digital agriculture division. All the activities that we are doing in this space will be integrated into this division, and we hope that this division will deliver as and when it is formed. I think I'll stop here and I look forward to the contribution from the other members in the webinar, and also looking forward to listen to the startups who are participating today. Thank you, Parmesh.
Thanks a lot, Raghu, and I think giving a very good overview of the various use cases which you are trying out, and clearly you have a broad range of things you are doing. You're bringing these new technologies in and then seeing which of these have the potential to go big and scale in terms of scale. I also am very curious about this digital agriculture division which you are starting. So we actually, Kenya is another country where we have a chief data digital officer sitting in Ministry of Agriculture. One of the few countries where we have managed to have that transformation happening within the government. So I would be very interested in knowing how that thing works, because I think most ministries of agriculture need to be completely transformed to take advantage of the data and digital revolution. And I think it needs a specialized effort to do that. And so I'll be very interested in looking at how that happens. And we will hear some of the use cases from the startups also. So Raghu, thanks a lot. I'll now invite Dr. Praveen Rao, who is well known. He's received various awards in terms of best vice chancellor, the best agriculture universities. We hear a lot of good things about the Telangana State Agriculture University. It doesn't look like a state agriculture university, which I came out of in Patnagar in 1980. So obviously, I think it's a transformed place, and to have a university which is part of this big vision of the government of transforming agriculture through technology and running an incubator and lots of things which we have heard about. So Dr. Rao, over to you now to describe how you look at this and what you are doing with the university ecosystem to transform Telangana's agriculture. Thank you. I think you are muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Parmesh. First of all, making me part of this wonderful program. And I also thank APC and Principal Secretary IT for giving a good background of the things that are happening in the state. I will not repeat what both of them have said, so that we can save time, and also we can cover other things as well. So honestly speaking, I'm an irrigation specialist, having worked for several years in Israel, particularly micro irrigation, my specialization was. But Rama Devi and other people from World Economic Forum have sucked me into this digital agriculture. And in fact, it was a learning curve for me for the last 14 to 15 months in this field. Looking every day new things happening. One statement I can make based upon these 14 to 15 months experience with these emerging technologies, we are convinced now at the university level, we are convinced now that these technologies are going to play a very important role in revolutionizing the agriculture in India and other parts of the world. That is one thing which I can with great conviction I can share with you. Then coming to 14 to 15 months back, we have started. So we have done several things to arrive at this stage what we are today. One is we have mapped the food consumption pattern in the state. We have mapped the crop colonies in the state. We have mapped the weather patterns in the state for the last 30 years. So we have built up a data in the state. We have mapped the cropping patterns in different districts. So we have mapped the soil fertility status in the 33 districts. So we have created a database. So, and based upon that, when these emerging technologies have come into the picture, we started looking at how we can integrate this database into say what you call and these emerging technologies, so that we can deliver some meaningful value-added services to the farming community. So in that context, we have established AgriHub, what we call it as AgHub Innovation Center at Hyderabad. Now it is in an innovative model. When I say innovative model, it is in a hubs and spokes model. At Hyderabad, it is a hub. Whereas in 3 districts, we have rural centers, so what we call it as tiers. So what we call in tier 1 and tier 2 towns. Like say what you call Jagityal, Warangal, Palem, Tandur, and so on and so forth. So basically, when we started discussing these things, we have also mapped the challenges faced by Telangana agriculture today, particularly as APC was saying that productivity levels are plateauing, so there are yield gaps. We also see soil degradation is a major issue, soil health is a major issue. We also see, of course, now water use efficiency is an important issue for us because of the development of irrigation in a big way. And we also see suboptimal efficiency in the agri-food value chain. This is another thing. And we also see harvest losses as well. So these are few important things from our point of view. Then quality inputs, high fertilizer use is another important challenge that we are facing. Now, to address these things, we have built a framework, what we call it as a smart farming framework. What we did is, in this framework, we have identified 3 segments combined with the what we call cloud and data management. What we call it as sensing and monitoring of the farm processes is one, and whatever data we generate from that is using sensors, using weather stations, using say what we call drones. We analyze them combined with other data what we have, as I told you, we generate to arrive at informed decisions, and then we use precision tools like again drones, again micro irrigation techniques to precisely deliver and control the inputs to the crops. This is the framework which we have built. Now coming to the AG Hub, so what we are doing is now this AG Hub has a we are looking at agri innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem across the state of Telangana as well as pan India at the hub level, through ideation, incubation, and innovation bridges, and as well as facilitate piloting of agri startup innovations with farmers. This is another important aspect. And FPOs at the grassroots level, along with the research whatever we are carrying out in a translational mode, and to promote student involvement as well as researcher-based entrepreneurship. This is one thing which we are looking at in a big way. And then in the innovation hub here in Hyderabad, as on today, we have 25 plus agri startups working with either which are in the pre-POC stage, working with our research teams. Say, for instance, a robotic AgriTech startup is working with our weed control scheme to fine-tune their weed detection and as well as control mechanism. Similarly, Krishi Tantra, which is working, which I think is here. So they are working with a few hundreds of farmers in analyzing the soil samples, which we have validated in the at the village level, and then we fine-tuned their algorithms to measure the soil fertility status so that we can bring down the fertilizer used by the farmers, and already several hundreds of farmers benefited from them. Another offshoot benefit which we have achieved from this is that they started giving employment to our agriculture polytechnic students. They are training them and they are giving employment to them. So now they are spreading to other areas, and this is one. Then similarly, we have done traceability AgriTech startup who is also here. He has completed for rice. Now we are doing for other crops. And we also have some of the AgriTech startups which APC Garu said, I will not repeat. Then the another one which we are working is drones. So the government of India has released the standard operating protocols for use of drones. Particularly, we are working on 5 major crops for developing SOPs for pesticide and fertilizer spraying. This is another area which we are working in a big way. Now, another important thing is that we are at the AG Hub. We are also looking at, apart from agri-pilot programs and incubation, co-innovation programs. Some of the candidates are working with our scientists to co-innovate some of the technologies. Then another one is supporting growth stage enterprises through enterprise acceleration program. This is another area which we are looking at. Now, in these, with regards to the 2-tier, where we are talking of village level, we are yet to start there, but we are building up the research programs there. We are building up the say what you call rural youth. Basically, this 2-tier level agri hub are targeted towards rural youth, grassroots innovators, farmers, and FPOs. This is what we are looking at that level. Now, among these say what you call initiatives, what we have taken, we have learned some very good learnings, which I want to put before you. One is customer acceptability, competent human resource with capacity as bridge professionals with skill set in agriculture, data science, and agribusiness are the major challenge what we are noticing. So we have scientists who do not understand the IT well, whereas we have IT people who do not understand the domain knowledge well. So there is a problem of this big gap which we are trying to address. This is one thing. Unless this is built in any policy of adopting this agri-food sector may not be success. This is one thing. Then another important aspect what we have noticed is data availability. Data is the biggest challenge what we have noticed. We are building up that data. So we are not building up the entire spectrum of agri-food value chain, but we are going by the use case. So every use case, we are building up the database for that. That is one thing which we are looking at. And another experience is with regards to scalability. Scalability is a big challenge for us, because acceptability by the farmers, say what you call, particularly when B2F model we are talking of, say for example, when we talk of this soil health AgriTech startup, it took us 2 seasons to convince the farmers. So to make understand him that there is no risk in it, and so on and so forth. That is another aspect which we have noticed. And another important thing what we have noticed is that with regards to since agriculture is a complex ecosystem, it is a complex ecosystem, platform approach wherein bundling of the solutions is the key. This is another one which we have noticed, because single window to access multiple solutions is the key, because otherwise say what you call, it will not be effective for scaling up. This is another aspect which we have noticed. Then another few things which I think that universities have to do is apart from validation for course correction during the pre-POC stage, there is a need for building up success stories and high quality research papers to strengthen this ecosystem. This is the key what we notice. And another important thing is that there is a need for Center for Excellence on Data Science at the university levels. This is another important aspect which we have learned. Then incorporating agri-entrepreneurship courses in agricultural education is another aspect. Now we have suggested it to the ICR, but in collaboration with Karnal Sadhguru Foundation and all that, we have already started the design thinking courses for the students at the university level, so that they are enthused by this. Then another important aspect which we felt that when a particular startup is say what you call in a post POC stage, to scale up in a quicker way, if there is a collaborations between NABARD, FPOs, SFAC, I think this will enable us to move very forward very quickly at the say what you call upscaling level. Then another important is I think that if at the rural level these agri-techs have to be taken, I think we need some channel partners there. So in rural areas, who are rural youth are there, if we can train them and they can act as a channel partners to push these agri-tech startups in a big way at the rural level. This is another important building of village level entrepreneurs through training and capacity building is another aspect which we notice it can work. Then say what you call most AgriTech startups, we felt that need nurturing, hand-holding in the real field level. This is another important aspect which we have noticed, because many of them for non-agricultural background, so they are coming to us with raw, say what you call technologies. So taking them is then a soft landing platform for AgriTech, a necessity and crucial business for business models with scientific validation at ground level is another issue. Mindset of technology acceptance, which we have noticed is a social barrier, which we found. And of course, I should register my appreciation here. This is one state where the enabling environment, the support from the government to the university to push these things in a big way is happening. So in nutshell, we are now looking at, we are at a stage wherein we have about 25 plus, to summarize, because my 10 minutes is over in. So 25 plus startups we have on hand, providing us validated models across the agri-food value chain, addressing pre-sowing challenges, production challenges, post-harvest challenges. So that is one thing, wherein we are building up the case studies and the impact assessment studies for policy people. We are coming up with data sets for selective use cases. We are coming up, we are trying to nurture the entrepreneurship culture in the university, which is not existing in most of the agricultural universities. As you are aware, they are built upon the production oriented and land grant pattern. So we are building up that. We are establishing a digital lab in the university for practical experiential learning of the staff and as well as the students. We have collaborations with Tech Mahindra, Bayer, FMC, say what you call Cornell, Western Sydney University, wherein they are helping us in building this, to name a few. And we are also building up the say what we call this at two-tier rural level, the entrepreneurship culture, particularly in the rural youth and so on and so forth. So this is in a nutshell. I think.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. I think we got a fairly good idea of lots of innovations which you are working on. I think you talked about data bundling, innovations, technologies, creating a more enabling ecosystem, and also working on curriculum and also developing entrepreneurship hub. There's a lot of going on there in the space there, and I think we will be in touch with you later on.
Yeah, I would be happy. I would be happy if you can sometime, if you can come down. We will benefit from your exposure and the things, a lot of things happening in Africa. I also keep myself in touch with the things happening in Africa as well.
Sure.
In this front. So
thanks a lot. I appreciate that. And please look at some of the questions which are coming in the chat, Dr. Rao. And if you can answer some of those questions while the discussion is going on, it will help us, because we are running behind time a little bit. Because I've allowed the first set of panelists to really talk in an open-ended manner. So Ramaji, now over to you. Rama Devi is also a director of emerging technologies, but she has had she's an MTech engineering, and then she has done a stint in Silicon Valley. And she has come back and worked with Center for Good Governance, also with National Institute of Smart Governance. She has so many incarnations that I can't complete that in the introduction. But I think, as Jay said, that Ag Data Exchange, what you are trying to do in Telangana, can you talk about that also a little bit more, in detail? And please try to stay in time now, because I would like the startups to also get.
Sure, I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. Thank you for giving us this opportunity, and good day to everyone who are actually from different parts of the world. So I hope you can see my presentation. Yeah, right. Well, I'll keep it very brief. All of us have been hearing about data. Data is the new oil, data is the currency. while the buzz is happening now, but our journey towards this data economy actually dates back to 2016. When we actually formulated our first ICT policy, which Mr. Ranjan actually spoke about it. In that policy, we envisioned coming out with a data policy specific for Telangana State. And based on that, we also launched an open data portal. Right now, we have data related to about 30 departments, and more than 800 data sets are available out there in the open platform. Moving on from the open data platform, we are actually now, building a data exchange platform. And the current focus is on in the agricultural domain. Maybe in this year that would be up and running. And in a couple of years, that data exchange will be extended to health, mobility, and to other sectors. So moving on, as Mr. Ranjan already spoke about this compendium that we have prepared, to get an understanding of the technology landscape. I mean, the way we have approached is very scientific and methodological. We came out with a compendium that enlists the entire, AgriTech landscape to understand the data requirements. And this is another initiative that all the speakers have spoken about. In partnership with World Economic Forum, we've actually identified 30 use cases. Again, this gave us a base to understand, what are the data sets that are required to build a data exchange platform. So if you see the fourth, here, you may call it a pillar or a fourth working group is on data governance. So this actually gave us, insights into what should go into a data exchange platform. Now, again, all of us are aware why we need a data exchange platform, but we really, experienced it when we started working with various startups, which our professor has just now indicated. Agriculture Secretary mentioned about the various startups that we work with. So we realized that a lot of effort, almost 40% of the time, cost is going into cleaning up the data for the startups. So if you can really make the data, high quality data available to them, it really spurs the innovation ecosystem. That's our learning with, the startups. So based on that learning, we went ahead and, again, it's in partnership with World Economic Forum that we are working on this. Of course, under the guidance of Mr. J. Satyanarayana, who was the former IT Secretary, Government of India. So these are the various objectives, of the data exchange platform. Basically to connect well, data is available out there, in fact, a report recently released by NASSCOM and McKinsey states that, there are about 500 billion worth of, $1 billion worth of data is out there within the government sector in about 10 sectors, and agriculture itself can contribute to about $65 billion of worth. That is the size and scale that we're looking at. So while data is available with various departments, it's fragmented. So our intention is to actually connect these providers and consumers. And of course, right now we don't have this data privacy law in place, but we want to come out with a consent management framework that enables, data providers to give their consent to data consumers. So these are the various objectives that we are looking at. Right now it's actually one-on-one basis transfer, 1:1. So once we have this exchange, it'll create a force multiplier effect, end-to-end data sharing. So these are some of the objectives that we are looking at. And as I said, it's a scientific methodology that we have adopted. We are identifying critical data sets, top 15 use cases that need data sets to spur innovation for developing and various solutions. So if you look at this, we have about 8 parameters that we're evaluating each use case and give certain weightage. If you look at this row 5, soil health management, e-soil health reports, this actually tops the chart with 100%, value score that is coming. So this is the way we do. What are the top 5 or 6 use cases where we need data sets that really serve 80% of the requirements? Based on that, we actually, design the, fine tune our effort and so on. Once we have those high level use cases, we again drill down to a more granular level, identifying, the field level data. What is the data that they actually need for a particular use case? For pest management, if you look at, you need crop data in addition to farmers and land data. what is the kind of crop, variety, and so on. So satellite data, ground data, and so on. So this is a granular level that we're going to, go for. And this is the architecture that you're looking at, functional architecture. On the left-hand side, if you look at, these are the data providers who would be provided with certain, functional features, like they would get a facility to create a catalog, metadata creation. Of course, they need to register, and an app will be provided to them to actually, make their data available. And again, I want to reiterate here, we're not going to store this data on the platform. It's kind of an exchange platform, like a stock exchange, where you just trade, commodities or stocks. There, here you're actually trading data. So and privacy by design is an important design consideration that will go into the overall design. So while you look at and on the right hand side, it's the data consumers. They have data discovery catalog, consent management framework, and they need to register and so on. So while it's a very comprehensive architecture that you're looking at, but initially we are going to go with a very flat architecture, basically with the data discovery module and consent manager module, of course, with certain registration, modules. So the reason is that we are actually, even seeking the advice of NPCI to understand how can we make this as flat as possible, as thin as possible. And once a certain traction is attained, we would actually, increase the features. So this is about the data exchange platform. We are actually releasing the RFP in the month of March, and hopefully this year it will be up and running. So Mr. Rajan also asked me to actually speak about a bit on the UNDP initiative that we are working on. It's a next-gen Gov data for policy initiative, which will help us in anticipatory governance and policy experimentation. So it's a digital public good that we're actually developing, a platform wherein, you will have knowledge products available, certain policy insights, newsletters, programs will be made available to the larger audience. So this is a work in progress initiative. Maybe more details I can share it offline in view of the time. Yeah, that's all from me, Parmesh. Thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Thanks a lot, Ramaji. This is a very important initiative, and I think it deserves a webinar of its own. We will be hosting about 5 countries which are working on similar things like data exchanges, and would like to invite you to, and, share those experiences with the other 5 countries which are going through a similar process at some stage. But a very, very important initiative, and we believe that data is a very important part of the AgTech innovation. Without that, scale will never be achieved, and it's an important foundational activity there. So I think we are running a little bit behind time. We'll go about 5 to 10 minutes, more than the period. But I just wanted at this stage to bring in the startups now. And I would request all the panelists to look at the questions which people are raising, and if possible, answer those questions in the chat. I will take them at the end also, but please start answering those questions in the chat so that the audience feels that you are responding to their questions. I don't want the audience to feel that we have neglected their questions there, since we are running a little bit behind time. So I will start with the section on where we'll bring in the innovators and private companies and startups which are working on some of the solutions which were described earlier. And I would like to invite Pradeep Paleli. He's the co-founder and CEO at Thanos. And he's really a serial entrepreneur in that sense. And he's also, Thanos is Telangana's first drone manufacturing and service company, and with a focus on agriculture spraying. So Pradeep, you have 5 to 6 minutes now to make your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Parmesh, for that kind introduction. Let me quickly share my screen. Please confirm once it's visible. Yeah, is my screen visible?
Sir, yes,
right.
It's visible now.
Great, thank you. So, hi everybody, this is Pradeep. I represent Thanos Technologies. We are a Hyderabad, India-based drone manufacturing services company. As the first drone company in Telangana, we've been operating for the last 5 to 6 years, since 2016, with a predominant core focus on the agri-sector. And fortunately, while most people keep looking for problems and take quite some time to identify the problem statement. In our case, the problem statement was pretty early presented to us by quite a few farmers and software employees with farming backgrounds. So with regards to agriculture, drones in general can be categorized to two types of applications. Specifically, one is agri-automation and agri-intelligence. Whatever application we take with regards to drones in agri, it falls under these two categories. And we've been mainly working on the agri-automation side of things, where we've been designing, building, and manufacturing drones for certain spraying applications. Now, why did we get into this? Why are we doing what we are doing? There are four key issues that we identified initially when we got into the sector. The biggest and major problem with regards to any kind of automation activity in general, any kind of physical activity in general, as on date, and something that has been worsened after the COVID hit the world, is the availability of manpower and labor itself in the rural areas. Now, in the last 1.5 decades, there was already a large-scale migration that was there of farm labor towards cities in order to look for better life opportunities. And this has worsened during the COVID time. So this is one of the key drivers of automation in agriculture. There is already a lot of automation. Instead of automation, I would say agri-mechanization is the key word, which has already been happening, be it in the form of harvesters or tillers or sprayers. But now, due to the lack of presence of people to actually even operate these machines, automation becomes an even more important activity. The second problem that we identified when we spoke to farmers was not only is the availability of farmers a major problem, but also the inefficient manner in which an untrained labor takes up certain activities, which ultimately leads to wastage of chemicals and unnecessary expenditure on the farmer side. And the last but not the least issue we identified was the hazardous effects that come out of spraying chemicals. In a tropical country like India, it is extremely difficult to continuously wear personal protective equipment, a full apron, face mask, everything during continuous field operations. There's something we tried and realized that it's very difficult to do on a regular basis. So looking at all these problems, we realized that it is utmost important to automate the entire activity, reduce the human element, the manual element of the entire activity to the extent possible to solve all these issues. And that's where drones have come into picture. I'll just maybe spend a few seconds to describe quantitatively and non-quantitatively what are the key differences between manual method of spraying and drone-based spraying. Where a human can do about an acre an hour, drones can do 6 to 8 acres an hour. Where there is a lot of inefficiency in terms of spraying manually, there is extremely uniform and efficient spraying that happens using a drone. And that's where unnecessary expenditure, wastage of chemicals goes down. And also it results in yield improvement because of more effective countering of the pest attack, or the nutrient deficiency that has been identified. And the last problem that was identified, the health hazards, they are completely eliminated due to the aspect that a human is not present inside the field at the time of spraying. Now, this is where we built our first prototype drone back in 2016-17. And as on date, we have done a fair bit of work ourselves, and we have manufactured a few drones and supplied to quite a few entrepreneurs and companies out there as well. One of the USPs, I would say, of the drones that we manufacture is the fact that we are a local design and manufacturing company, where we have our own teams designing these drones from the ground up. And the fact that we use our own lithium-ion batteries assembled in-house gives the highest flight time currently for battery-powered agriculture drones in the country. Now, using this, we have done a fair bit of work in the last few years. So in terms of the impact created or the work that we ourselves have done using the drones that we've created, we've done more than about 3,000 acres, 3,200 acres of spraying spread across Telangana and AP mainly, with a little bit of work in Karnataka, Maharashtra as well. And the major crops we worked on are rice, cotton, mirchi, and maize. And this has impacted more than 200 farmers, and the number keeps growing every week. Now, the biggest win we had when we were doing all this is the actual testimonials from the farmers. Due to paucity of time, I may not be able to share the testimonials, but whatever problem statement we set out to address, the farmers for whom we provided the service, they have validated each and every problem statement and the fact that it is solving it, and also certain unexpected benefits also have come out of this. Now, what are the opportunities that are there here that we are trying to address, and how can this impact the overall agriculture sector in the country? There are three areas that we've identified. One is the fact that it is not possible for one entity or one company to actually deploy hundreds or thousands of drones across India. There is the aspect where rural entrepreneurs have to be brought into the picture, where these rural entrepreneurs are already owning tractors, tillers, harvesters, so on and so forth. There is the possibility where hundreds and thousands of entrepreneurs across the country can own drones and provide service. There is the aspect about employment generation, where each drone is a two-person operation. And then there is the fact that every few drones that are there in the locality, you need immediate service, 24 or 48-hour service, availability of spares and repairs as well. And it's a fairly technical job which someone needs to run. So there is the aspect about services and drone technicians as well. So there is potential for tens of thousands of people to be employed in this sector alone. And I would like to close with the roadmap or the targets we have for the next few years, for which we are currently also on the lookout for funds so that we can scale up the impact that we've already made. The number of drones we expect by ourselves to have on the field through tying up or supporting various rural entrepreneurs out there for the next 3 years at least is on the range of 10,000 drones. And like I said, each drone itself requires a two-person operation. And to add to that, the service technicians that are required. So there's a potential 25,000 plus employment generation just to cater to these 10,000 drones of operation. And this is not even considering the other indirect employment opportunities that are available out there. And each drone in a year can cater to about 3,500 acres, which means that the 10,000 drones can effectively cater to 30 million acres in the country, which is effectively 8 to 10% of the entire agricultural land of India. And the environmental angle that I may not have stressed much on, but a very key aspect is that every acre sprayed using a drone requires at least 100 liters less than the conventional methods. Where conventional methods require 120 or more liters of spraying, a drone requires only 8 to 10 liters of spraying, be it pesticides or nutrients. That way, we expect that these 10,000 drones in operation can effectively save 3 billion liters of water every year. And this is just a conservative estimate we've taken. Along with us, there are other companies across the country which we believe will create multifold impact on this front. Thank you. And these are my coordinates for anybody who can please reach out to me later on.
Appreciate
Thank you for the opportunity.
giving us this bird's eye view of thing. And in view of the government of India announcing a lot of new drone focus, the Krishi drones and all that. So I think that should give a lot of impetus to this activity going forward. So enabling policy environment is also
Absolutely.
there. And I think it's a very interesting example. And I think a country like India traditionally has looked at labor as the deliverer of services. But I think how do we take agriculture as a service and transform the service, agriculture service industry is a very big opportunity, and drones are very important, and the spraying and all the other, even fertilizer application and others could be a very important part there. I would now go to
In fact,
yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, so I just want to close with a statement. In fact, we've also been working with AgHub at PJTSAU to take this technology to the more rural and remote parts of Telangana, where we are doing demos and collecting feedback on the overall execution model itself. That is something we expect to refine over the next 1-2 seasons.
Thanks, Pradeep. So I will now go to Tanmay Sethi, co-founder of Nebula. Again, a very distinguished background from engineering, and then he's worked on many industries and also set up this institution along with his other people in 2016. And I think I like the vision statement, trying to provide machine learning driven solutions for agriculture produce quality diagnostics. So Tanmay, over to you now.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Parmesh. Very good day to everyone. I'll share my screen. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can do that. Okay. Yes, we can see.
Great. A very good day to everyone. My name is Tanmay, and I represent this company named Nebula Innovations. And okay, I'll come to what we were trying to solve. So in 2016, when we started, we realized this is how quality testing of agri produce is done. So this is paddy. This person is checking for various physical defects. Individual grains have to be picked out, then classified in respective categories. It takes a lot of time. And in a country like India, where we have thousands of farmers coming during the season, it doesn't happen. So what happens is today the testing happens by the buyer. They just pick a bunch of grains, look at it and quote a price. So that's how the testing is done in all the developing agriculture nations. Even for that matter, countries like US, Canada, they do the testing like this, but because the farms are bigger, they can afford it, but not in country like India. So we developed this solution which we call as MAT. It uses AI and computer vision techniques. It's a total deep learning platform. And it cuts down the entire time from 30 minutes to less than a minute. In the machine learning bag, it covers the grain from multiple sites, so the results are very accurate. It's a scientific testing how it has to be done in the lab. We are doing it. It's repeatable since it doesn't have any human subjectivity involved in it. It gives you the same result, be it you are in Rajasthan or Telangana. So truly what we are trying to do using such techniques is we are enabling the digital trade ecosystem. So now a lot of discussion is happening around agri marketing. And if you have to do a digital transaction, you require a proper quality asset product on which the trading can be done without the person being physically present. And that's where product like MAT comes in picture, that it gives you a report within a minute. It's a completely offline solution. We are running deep learning algorithms on premise on this device without requiring fancy hardwares. So we have done this optimization that we can run it in the remotest part of the country without any internet or even on battery backup. So what it gives you ultimately is the comprehensive scientific analysis, which a lab presently costs you around 700 to 800 rupees per sample, which a farmer cannot afford. We give that for almost 1/10 or less than that price to a farmer or the buyer. And this is the report that you get. So this is for rice. What we are doing is we want to, as I said, we want to do digital transaction. So we are giving a verifiable image report. So over here, if you see, this is the verifiable image that you get. For in case of rice, this is a damaged grain, this is a broken grain. So it helps the buyer to make a decision whether the produce that I'm going to buy is of my quality or not. So whatever they are doing by picking the sample today, we have completely digitized it. And these reports are uploaded on various e-market platform like eNAM of Government of India. So that the buyer from different locations can also look at the lot and actually make a trade decision. And this report is also provided to the farmer so they can actually know what the quality of their produce is. So I'll come to uh, three major use case that we have looked on or working on, and we see what value addition this thing will do. So this is the price graph of last year's. So it's for paddy, Hamsa variety of paddy in two APMCs, the mandis where the farmers come. In Mehboob and Badipalli, they are like 40 kilometers apart. They are in the Mehboob district, around 60 kilometers from Hyderabad, the capital of Telangana. So here, if you see, there are like 200 to 50 odd farmers coming in a day in each of these markets. But if you see, the prices have dropped in APMC, this Badipalli APMC, because the competition over here so is lesser, and these are 40 kilometers apart. The quality is same, everything is same, but there is on an average 10% price difference for a farmer that they are getting in Badipalli APMC as compared to Mehboob Nagar APMC. And that's where we want to come in, that we come here, we do the quality testing, we have everything controlled, and then this result can be uploaded, or with this result, the buyer who is not even in the APMC can actually do a digital transaction over platform like eNAM or other such platform. So this is where we see, and again, within the APMC, we are reducing the luck factor. Now, since we are giving the actual report to each and every farmer, and every buyer can look at the quality report of each lot, they actually praise the rice price for the rice material. So now it's not like that I have come first, my lot was observed by more buyers, so I'll get better price. So we have reduced the influence of luck in price determination and made it more quality driven. The second thing that we're trying to do is identifying the right utility of a produce. So for example, the same wheat is used by to make flour. India export a lot of wheat to Iran, or that's used by ITC or Shakti Bhog or a local miller. So how do you know what is the use case of this wheat? Should I sell it loose? So if the lustre is good, that will appear very good if it has to be sold loose. Whereas if there are a lot of impurities or a lot of broken, then it can't be stored for longer time. So what happens today, the entire trade happens person specific. So I am a buyer, I know two further processor, I will buy from the farmer and use it only for two processors whom I know. I don't know what are the export standards. So even the buyers don't know what is the right utility of this produce, what is the best utility of this produce in the secondary trade or tertiary trade. And that's where we come in. We have more than 200 market presence, and we serve all the industry like FMCG, exporters, millers, processors, feed company, brewery companies. So we help the buyers determine what is the right utility. We, with one test itself, we give multiple reports, which helps the buyer to know whether, okay, if this wheat, should I use it to sell it to an ITC, an FMCG company like ITC, or should I sell it to a local miller, or should I sell it loose by what is the variety and all those things. We help them determine and help them to identify the right utility. And third thing, again, this is a learning. So I am an engineer, as Mr. Parmesh said, and I learned agriculture by being on the field. And when we were doing this pilot in Mehboob Nagar market, we saw this thing which is called as tali or chaffy grains in paddy. So this grain doesn't have a rice kernel in it. So it doesn't produce, and it doesn't weigh much. So when you weigh it in terms of 1 kilo paddy, it doesn't will affect anything. But every chaffy kernel that is there is a yield lost for the farmer. And today what happens, and what was very shocking for me to see in agriculture market yards, is when the farmer come to sell it, nobody gives a feedback to them. Nobody tells them that, okay, your quality is bad because of this factor. They're just given a price. And this price holds no value. There's no feedback for them to go back and improvise on this. And as Dr. Rao also said, we are trying to integrate all the data that is there, say with match historical test report for that person and the people in the nearby region. We're trying to help. So like paddy, this chaffy in paddy can happen because of a pest effect, or because of moisture stress, or a lack of nutrients. So basis on the profile of this particular farmer against other farmer, we are trying to build such database which can be integrated with a agri expert, whether it is AI or this human, so that instead of just giving a quality report, we give quality diagnostic. So today when we go to a doctor, they don't tell me that, okay, you have diabetes and that's it. So instead of that, we would want this entire data to come in to the farmer to say that, okay, you have chaffy, more than 10% chaffy, and next time if you do this, then you will have better crop. So this is something which we are trying to work upon. We're working with seed companies, fertilizer companies, and agri institution to understand, gain these insights and give such feedback to the farmer. So yeah, that's it from my side. And you can reach us at nebula.in. Thank you very much. I'm very thankful to World Bank for giving us this opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tanmay. Very, very generic product you are developing. Paddy is a universal crop all over. The issues are the same world over. I would sort of, in a follow-up question, which I'll come to you later on, can you say what are the implications for other crops for this kind of a regime? Basically, when you go for, say, now grains, I can understand. If you are looking at fruits and horticulture, are you developing something specific in that area, or you would, because grains itself, there is a lot to do. So I will come back to you for this question later, but a very interesting presentation. It has a lot of global implications as well, basically. So it could be a very generic solution in that sense. Okay, now I would go to Vivek, who's the Chief Business Officer with Kalgudi. And it's a very interesting organization which is working towards farmers enabling, they have an Agri-Mars-C, an Agri-Produce Marketing Automation platform. And there were a lot of questions on Agri-Produce Marketing in the chat. So I would request Vivek to describe their solution But please understand that we are running behind time, and I would like to close positively this session at 10:45. Over to you, Vivek.
Thanks, Paresh. I hope we can all see my screen.
Yeah,
Paresh?
we can.
Okay, great. So thank you all for listening in to us, Kalgudi. I'm Vivek Sehgal. I'm the Chief Business Officer for Kalgudi Digital. I am actually filling in for Raj Vallabhneni, who's our CEO and founder. He was indisposed today. So I'll take this session and take you all through what we do at Kalgudi, our approach to digital transformation at the grassroots. So at a functional level, Kalgudi is an interaction platform for the agriculture and rural livelihood sector. It's a digital interaction platform connecting all stakeholders in the agri ecosystem and enabling their interactions. Now, this is a 360-degree approach. It's very much along the lines of what Dr. Praveen Rao suggested, that in this sector, you need to put things at a single window for everybody to be able to interact commonly. I'll go through more details of how we go about it. So what happens really here is Kalgudi is in effect a network of millions of stakeholders, and each node represents a stakeholder of the agriculture ecosystem, and they get an opportunity in their respective roles and their respective environments. So how do we actually work on this? Each stakeholder is provided a specific role-specific web and mobile application connected through a set of marketplaces. Example, universities push micro-targeted advisories, farmers report farm activity, traders manage their stock, all this in their respective environments. What Kalgudi is, we are a pure play digital technology enabler. We do not generate any content, but we focus on effective information dissemination. We do not trade in inputs, but we connect aggregated input demands to suppliers. We do not trade in outputs, but make farmers' output discoverable and enable better market linkages. We also are working, we enable consumers to discover rural products and buy directly from rural producers. So that's a big difference from many others in the AgriTech system currently. The way Kalgudi is organized is we have 4 verticals: core, inputs, outputs, and consumer. Core is a set, provides a set of digital tools for enablers. Enablers, as we see them, are government departments, universities, impact organizations, donors, even corporates, and collectives, basically FPOs, CBOs, and SHGs. I presume we're all familiar with the terminology that I'm using, through which they manage their operations. And they use this to effectively engage with their beneficiaries in the programs that they have designed and are running for the desired impact that they have in mind. As I said, we don't own the content, and we have no plans to do that. For example, there may be advisories that they need to send, carry out surveys, crop calendars, etc. So all these get enabled and executed on core by the enablers. So at the end of this, through core, enablers are able to better manage their programs and get effective, very deep insights on how their programs are performing and how to tweak them for better results. Similarly, farmers are better informed from these programs and get more effective utilization. Technology service providers get an opportunity to use Kalgudi's platform and provide their services at scale very economically. For example, we have incorporated satellite imagery-based advisory services. We've also worked with IoT devices at the farm level for large-scale operations. So all these come together in core. With the inputs that we now have and a deeper understanding of the ecosystem and the stakeholders through core, we take the beneficiaries and the stakeholders into our input marketplace to provide them effective input market linkages. In inputs, Kalgudi anticipates and aggregates the input demand and connects them with appropriate input suppliers. Through this, farmers and FPOs, through FPOs actually, farmers get genuine products at much lower prices. Parallelly, suppliers, particularly MSMEs, see the larger inputs players have very elaborate supply chain into the distribution networks. MSMEs have very effective products that they can provide to various in the farming community. Suppliers, they get larger market access with efficient logistics. Now, with an even more deeper understanding of the kind of farmland, the crop pattern, what they have used, etc., we bring the farmers into our output marketplace, wherein we anticipate their aggregated output supply. We make it discoverable into our B2B outputs marketplace. So in outputs, there is a huge challenge to make outputs discoverable in the norms that the market trades in. It is no point in just calling it XYZ chili or something like that you see on the typical commodity exchanges. When the trade happens, there are 10 other parameters by which trade takes place at each, not only APMC, but by traders themselves. So we have innovatively created a concept of in outputs a lot-wise SKU, wherein for that particular commodity, we research it deeply, come to what the market requires to effectively trade lot-wise for that commodity in that category with that grade, and makes it a tradable activity. Along with this, with our knowledge from both inputs and core, we provide automatic, auto-generated contextual traceability. It's provided to buyers. All this provides an effective, expanded, transparent marketplace for agri-commodities at large across the country and going forward even into international situations. Now we come to our fourth vertical, consumer. I can take examples of, say, Mehboob-Nagar Benganpalli, or Kondapulli soft toys, or Guntur chili pickle. There are infinite number of rural products which have a large potential unfulfilled consumer market. Kalgudi enables the makers of these products to sell directly to consumers by providing them input supplies from our output stores, product listing with their stories to bring out their uniqueness, branding and packaging, collaborative fulfillment and logistics. This enables rural micro-entrepreneurs to effectively participate in the modern markets. All these verticals, core, inputs, outputs, and consumers actually feed into each other, thereby creating a domino effect wherein 1 + 1 is actually 11. It's well understood that the last mile connectivity, digital physical, is the biggest challenge for digital transformation in the agri and rural livelihood sector. For example, how do you get somebody to recite an advisory to a farmer who doesn't have a smartphone and for him to constantly update on it? How do you get somebody to geofence a land, or get a farmer to list his products online, or get him to order products online? So in the ideal situation, all this would have been handled by the farmer himself, going online and doing all this. But at the current stage, we are quite a distance away from that. So the way out is to provide digital assistance at the grassroots to achieve the digital transformation goals. This is exactly as per the lines of what Dr. Praveen Rao suggested with VLEs at the grassroots level. But however, given the scale, this will require a very large number of digitally trained and capable people, which would be prohibitively expensive and unmanageable for us. So our innovation is to involve village level micro entrepreneurs. We call them Kubers, Kalgudi Uber. We onboard rural youth with simple local mobility as Kubers. What does Kalgudi do for them? It breaks down the digital assistance tasks that they require and Uberizes them to execute and earn out of that. Effectively, Kalgudi digitally assists farmers and beneficiaries to become effective consumers, producers, service providers, and sellers. This democratizes commerce at the grassroots and has the power to dramatically reduce the cost of every transaction. What we do is at Kalgudi, we provide relevant micro tasks to Kubers. Example, there is a farmer X, his land needs to be geofenced. This is the exact task. This is a location. Please do it for a certain fee. Due to a pest that has happened in your area for a particular crop, farmers in your area probably require pesticide ABC. Supply it for a small margin. At farmer location X, you need to take videos and image of a dry chili lot. Do it for a small fee. So that's how Kubers work at their own listing and get a dynamic and fixed remuneration for every transaction that they do very, very systematically. However, managing this large number of kuberes, typically we would ideally like to have one kuber per village in the country to start with. That itself would mean that we would have an army of 500,000 kubers across the country. We've started this 3 months ago, and I'm pleased to tell you that in Khammam district of Telangana, we have 1,000 kubers who are doing all these tasks for us in the last 2 months. Managing this would require a very large activity. So Kalgudi uses effective checks and balances to ensure that these services are provided satisfactorily. To do that, we use a lot of AI and ML at the back end to provide all this. All our activities, every single micro interaction.
I would like you to wind up because otherwise we won't get full time.
Yeah. So very quickly, every interaction that we have creates a micro impact, and these could be an interaction, transaction, or digital operation. These come to a much larger overall operation impact. In core, there are various activities which result in this thing. Effective FPOs run their whole programs with us. The largest FPO in India, the Mulkanur Society, based out of Karimnagar, Telangana, runs its entire operations on Kalgudi. Inputs, we are working with various farmers across the board, and we are seeing that they get a savings of almost 10 to 15% when they use our activity, the platform. In outputs, again, expanded marketplace with traceability has opened up a lot of interesting opportunities, some at a very local level by bypassing the local commission agent and saving that fee, and by others by having to move to a much larger open market. The biggest impact, however, comes through consumer markets, wherein rural micro entrepreneurs can participate in modern markets using a consumer vertical effort. We've been working, Kalgudi is a fully developed, experimented in all aspects and validated platform. I'm pleased to tell you that in Telangana, we worked as soon as the pandemic started in 2020, at the request of the horticulture department, we launched Tea Fresh, which is an initiative to supply fruits and vegetables on a store to consumers in Hyderabad from farmers from Telangana. It was done very successfully. We are part of the Ag Hub, where we continuously get support and guidance from Dr. Praveen Rao and their team. And we are part of the Sagu Bagu initiative, and where we'll be working on chilies and expanding it to turmeric as we go forward in the Khammam district. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Vivek. Very innovative, and we would invite you again because I have interacted with Raj earlier, and I have a full idea that this is a very, very universally replicable model. Again, it's not just India. This can go into many other parts. In fact, what we are having in the next session on Kenya, DG Agri Hub, is also is using some of the parts which you are using. So I think we will try to bring all of you together so that we can create some global innovation on large scale at a later stage. Thanks a lot. Much appreciate, Vivek.
Thanks.
Now I'd like to invite Sandeep Kondaji. I'm sorry you are in the end, but Krishi Tantra, founder of Krishi Tantra, again a serial social entrepreneur. Sandeep, over to you. And then Vijay, you should be ready after this because we have to go very fast now, because otherwise we lose our audience now if we go to beyond a particular point. Sandeep, over to you.
Thanks, Parmesh. A very good day to everyone. Even though I am the last presenter among the startups, and also, soil is something which cannot be ignored.
Can you increase the volume a little bit? We are not able to hear you.
Am I audible?
Yes, now you're audible.
Yeah, a very good day to everyone. So my name is Sandeep Kondaji. I'm the founder and CEO of Krishi Tantra. So first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity for presenting here. So is my screen come up on the screen? Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
So Krishi Tantra, we are an soil technology platform. So we founded in the year of 2017, and we are currently headquartered in Hyderabad, Telangana. The main core aspect of the entire agri value chain starts from the soil. So you have the entire agri value chain, which is standing on that particular foundation layer. And the main information piece that is missing today is on the soil side. So because of which the challenge that is being faced and faced by the entire value chain, and along with that also the environmental impact also which that is causing due to which the information is not available today for a farmer. Now because of which farmers are blindly applying the fertilizer. Either they end up overly using the fertilizer, over applying the fertilizer, or under applying the fertilizer. And majority of the soils across the globe are over fertilized, especially when it comes to you have this nitrogen application, when it comes to the major nutrients and all. So majority of them are overly, and as a result, it causes an unbalanced application of fertilizer, which also causes unbalanced yield, right? And also it also causes an hazard, wherein it will cause soil acidification, degradation of the soil fertility, reduction in your carbon sequestration, and also it causes hazard for the nearby ecosystem like your lake and river body getting eutrophicated, groundwater contamination, and so on. So there is a direct impact both on economic and also environmental aspects on this. And then you have the further value chain, which is working on supplying the inputs where they will not be able to position the products appropriately. A certain product where a product is being positioned, let's say a composition of a fertilizer which is being sold for a farmer, where already there is an excess nutrient already there in the soil, or a biofertilizer which is being sold to a farmer, where there is no microbial content available in the soil. And today a supply chain company doesn't have an information. They may have an information on from a satellite on the crops and the regions which crops are being grown, but on what foundation these crops are being grown, that information is totally missing. And as a result, there is a gap of 20 gigaton globally, where there is an estimation which goes wrong over that. And then you have a fintech company providing a crop loan or a crop insurance to a farmer where a farmer is growing tomato. Two farmers are growing tomato. The input requirement for a farmer growing tomato on a healthy soil is totally different from a farmer who is growing tomato on a poor health soil. So there is a lot of mismatch in that, and where this risk is not at all covered under these particular financial products that are being provided. So, and today, if you have carbon credits that have to be traded, now you need to also understand the soil organic carbon levels of the soil, which again, at a scale, this particular information is totally missing. And as a result, there is a lot of incentivization that also goes missing for a farmer who are actually can be promoted to go towards a sustainable and healthy farming. And for that entire solution is what Krishi Tantra is all about. So Krishi Tantra has developed a soil technology platform where we collect all this information and also geotag and also bring the farmer tag along with that, along with the plot information, where we collect all the soil health data on a regular basis, and we have a direct information, and also then we have derived information in terms of what crop and what input requirement for each of these plots specific will be required, and also a quantum of credit line and financial assistance that would be required for these farmers. And that is done through a data acquisition system which is being powered. So where we do an assessment of weak spots in a farm level, every plot level, from where the soil sample has to be collected. And then the sample is being collected. Then there is an assessment of physical, chemical, and microbiological insights that get stored on the cloud. And also the same thing is made available to the value chain, starting from the farmer and to the other value chain who are dependent on the agriculture business. And the one of the products that we have developed, which is also patent pending system, which is Krishi Rasta, which does a chemical estimation for about 13 to 14 parameters today, which is validated and which is portable, and which also is portable and also works on a battery, where in under 30 minutes you get to know all these estimations done for the soil chemical properties. And along with that, it also provides you a fertilizer recommendation to a farmer in vernacular language, where it goes to a farmer in specific to the crop which farmer is preferring to grow. So there is a fertilizer recommendation that goes to farmer in terms of how many bags of which fertilizer composition needs to be used. So there is, and also it goes in a vernacular language. So all this happens in less than 30 minutes for a farmer. And the same data is being stored on the cloud, and then we have an API that we make it enable and make it available to the further value. Then not only that, so we also again soil, as we all know, soil is a ocean of microorganisms. So it has got so many microorganisms that thrive on. So this is again a very important aspect of the soil. So which we are also identifying under those, which are those things which really impact on the crop growth. So on that note, we have now a product which can estimate microbial carbon, fungal to bacterial ratio. So where fungal again plays a very important role for your carbon sequestration and also a better package of practice in the soil. And not only that, so we are also working and launching some of the products which identify certain specific bacteria which contributes to nitrogen fixing bacteria or phosphate fixing bacteria or potassium fixing bacteria. So these are the sort of presence which we also identify, which can help identifying for a biofertilizer companies to position their products appropriately in those regions where it is required. So which so far has been only available at the research level, to which we are making and available at the ground level. So we have been working across the value chain. So far we have been working with input companies, retail companies, financial companies, where they are the consumers and beneficiaries of this thing, and where this entire ecosystem has realized the value and importance if the data, if agriculture has to thrive, so it has to fundamentally start from the soil, and based on which the rest of the product positioning can happen, and based on that the engagement can be very efficiently positioned to a farmer. So far we have a presence of about in 8 states in India, and we are having again driving through more on the village level entrepreneur model, where we are empowering them by bringing this as a self-employment part of it, where they make their livelihood by doing this. And at the same time, we have done about more than 19,000 tests in this year alone, and having benefited about nearly 10,000 farmers. And with a visionary ecosystem that we have in Telangana, I'm very fortunate to have getting an opportunity to work under leaders like Dr. Praveen Rao sir and also Jayesh Ranjan sir, where they have this entire vision of data-driven agriculture and also giving that importance from the foundation level. And on that basis, we got an opportunity to work under this NEGPA program, where we are able to work with 86 villages, benefiting about 1,900 farmers, collecting the information from them and doing the soil assessment, soil estimation on the chemicals, that is the nutrients that are available, and providing them the advisories which are already been established from the university for about 66 varieties of. As a result, so now we'll be able to provide a one single map, soil health map to the government, where government can have an eagle-eye view of the soil health pattern and also what crops were grown earlier and what are those crops that can also be suggested along with that. So at a various level, they can bring with their other analytics, where this can directly get integrated to their MIS system. So, and other than that, we also happen to got an opportunity initially, like as Dr. Praveen Rao sir also was talking about, where they helped us to validate our system and also corrected our, we had to also calibrate our system in such a way that it provides an accurate result as compared to the lab. So, which was the very first initiative that we did for hundreds of farmers where they got benefited. And under that program, we were able to provide this.
Sandeep, would request you to wind up a little bit, because I think you have a very interesting presentation, and the microbiometer could be a killer application which you are doing in terms of the carbon credits globally. Yes. So we will engage with you much more intensively. We can't do justice to the range of things you are doing, and I think I'm very excited to really listen to your presentation here. And I think I'm sorry for running out of time, but Sandeep, many thanks. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I would go now to Vijay Kolakanda, my colleague at International Finance Corporation, IFC, which is our private sector arm. I'm sure you are listening to a lot of these innovations, Vijay. And can you describe how IFC's advisory services and other investments in this space are? Give people a little bit of a bird's eye view of what you are doing and how people can work with you.
Thanks a lot, Parmesh. And we recently signed an MOU with the government of Telangana and also with Niti Aayog. Our focus, as what we have been hearing in today's presentation, starting right from Jayesh and all the way through the last sort of an AgTech presentation that we heard, is that the government is making a lot of efforts in terms of basically looking at the demand side, in terms of what are the requirements of the farmers, and then trying to identify the technology and trying to see how they can crowd in some of these technologies. And similarly, we did hear a lot from a lot of these AgTechs, so what they are trying to do in terms of basically addressing those technology. From the IFC perspective, I think we are taking a supply side hat, because today what we see in India, and Telangana is probably no exception, is there is a large number of AgTechs and continuing growth of AgTechs that is happening. But the key challenge is what we want to basically address is the sustainability of these AgTechs. And this sustainability of these AgTechs is only going to come when there is commercialization opportunity, i.e. they reach a significant scale in terms of delivery of services. We heard about a lot of these AgTechs probably working with respect with a few thousand farmers or maybe about 100,000 farmers. Today, if you look even across the country, where you see AgTechs with pretty large scale engagement is more on the e-commerce side of things, particularly like the Waycools of this world and Freshfields of this world, all those things. But what we are not yet seeing in terms of huge scale of operation is on things like what Raghu was mentioning, where the challenge is on how do I basically improve productivity? How do I basically, which is requiring things like what we heard today from several of the AgTech presenters, that they're working on the technology side to basically help improve the efficiency of farming, whether it is water conservation, spraying of inputs, or using of Krishi Tantra, trying to do the soil testing, the imaging. But what we have not seen is a scale in these things. Unless and until you don't achieve scale, sustainability of these becomes a big question mark. There is every time a pure approach of continuous dependency on external funding, grant funding, and there is a limited scale of commercialization. I think that's an area where we have agreed with the government of Telangana that let's focus on that one, because they are doing several interesting things which would be very useful for the AgTechs, particularly like what we heard, what Ramadevi mentioned about the Ag Data Exchange, because today for an AgTech to basically work on the data, to work on anything, to collect the farm level data, it costs close to about $10. And which means, if they want to really scale up things, they cannot be able to go ahead and collect data from each and every farmer and be able to scale. And that's where the Ag Data Exchange, trying to basically bring in the different data sources, addresses a pain point of several of these AgTechs. So I think they're doing very interesting things and wonderful things. But what we want to do from the IFC side is to come in from the supply side perspective. How do we basically help these AgTechs to be able to grow to scale? And that's where a compact that we're working with the government of Telangana is over the next 3 to 5 years. How can we basically bring in 5 million farmers, into the AgTech as sort of a clients of AgTechs who are basically delivering some of these services, because then it becomes a win-win, because they then basically are able to sustain and grow and also, grow in other states as well. That's going to be our focus moving forward. And that's where we are going to be working closely with the government of Telangana. And the agency that we'll be working with within the government of Telangana is an entity called as a RICH, which is part of which is incubated by the government of Telangana, the Department of Industry. So let me pause there.
I'm sorry that as a chair, we had not anticipated the range of things which were presented here. But I'm very excited by what's happening in Telangana, both from the public policy perspective, the incubation perspective, the ecosystem perspective, and the actual innovations themselves. I think I strongly believe that what's happening in Telangana could be replicated across the world and even in India. So what I'm promising is that we'll continue this conversation to build some kind of a more productive partnership, not only a knowledge learning partnership, but other kinds of partnerships which are there. I also promise that we will come back to Dr. Rao and really see if we can bring the same perspective of what an agriculture university should look like in 2030, basically. Should it be teaching the same kind of things? Should it be having separate courses on different things? How the secondment should be done of the students? How the faculty should do these things? How they should have innovation hubs? And then finally, the 4 innovators, I really feel that there's something significant happening in Telangana, and I think the fact that you are able to work on all these innovations in Telangana and take them to the scale where you are is very remarkable. I really also want to thank Raghu. I think Raghu, I think if Agriculture Department is able to develop this digital agriculture unit, I think you will be one of the first states in the country and in the world to really have an agriculture ministry or a commissionerate which is driven by data and digital. I think this is something very unique, and we will also like to come back to you and collaborate. So I will host another session sometime back where we will bring other ministries in the world which are working in a similar way as yours and see if we can enter into some kind of a knowledge exchange there. And similarly, Dr. Rao with the KALRO, the Kenya Livestock Research Organization, which is a consortium of all the research which is happening in Kenya, which is setting up a very modern data and big data center, which we have funded through a World Bank project. So we would like to come back and talk to you. And so I would particularly like to thank Jayesh, Raghu, and particularly Rama Devi ji and Meenal for making this happen. I think if you guys had not pulled it together, I don't think you would have been able to convene this. The fact that you are able to convene such a good thing is also very remarkable. I would like to thank all the panelists, the startups which are, there today presented. They are no longer startups. I think you have a potential to become, I would consider that some of you have the potential to become not only national, but global also. And so we are establishing a global innovation accreditation facility, and we would like to invite some of you to, apply for that facility so that we can look at a generic kind of innovation there. Because what you do in paddy, if it can be done anywhere in the world, then paddy can become a more, quality conscious and discoverable kind of commodity for millions of farmers. There are many examples like that. The microbiometer, which was being just discussed, would be very, very important, because we have not looked at the microbes. The soil testing has remained focused on just chemical fertilizers. There we know that the microbial action is what really makes even the chemical fertilizer work. So something very interesting going on in the ecosystem. I would like to thank my colleagues Vivek and Parvati for also doing a lot of spade work for making this happen. So all the proceedings will be available, including we curate the chat also. So if the questions are not answered in the chat, we will come back to the presenters and ask them to respond it in more detail, so that these questions are also available to you as part of the recording. Look forward to interacting with many of you. And Vijay, sorry for rushing you at the end. I think there's a lot to be talked about from the IFC's perspective. I hope you will maintain the interaction with all the innovators and the Telangana government, because you are really leading also a very interesting piece of work with them. Thank you very much. Good night, particularly for colleagues in India for staying so late, and also thank colleagues all over the world for listening in. Thank you very much, and bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Parmesh. Thank